Hey Su Ying, thank you very much for deciding to take this project to the next level. I just have a couple of quick things that I just want to bring up about our next report that I'd just like to talk over. So firstly, just before we get into it, this report was more aimed at doing a further evaluation of the system. So specifically looking at potential design models that we could potentially look, potential developers, and any recommendations that BW Technology can make for your company to make sure the transition from the paper-based system to the electronic system is perfect. So just to begin, just to get some housekeeping out of the way, as if you can see on the report, we have what we call a work breakdown structure. Now this is pretty much just to show you everything that I've done. This is my pre-planning stage. So this is done before the report, so I can go through and just sort of estimate exactly how long everything is going to take and what exactly I need to get done. So when you get time, you can just go through and check that out. Now specifically inside that, just want to look for pretty much, before we continue on, I just wanted to point your attention to the 2B design diagram and obviously the recommendations that I'm going to make near the end. So moving on to the first thing, as you can see in the 2B design activity diagram, now specifically what this is here to do is it's previously, before we saw in previous report, there was an as-is diagram, UML. That specifically showed what your current business processes is. This is a diagram of what the new process is going to look like. Now, it does look like it's a little bit more complicated than the previous one, and it is, except you don't have to worry about that. The cool thing is, because the system is a computer, never sleeps, keeps going, just crunches numbers, it can run complicated things in the background while you have to do less work. So specifically, if you can take a look at the UML, obviously it begins by saying a customer begins the order. Now, because we're implementing a new website, specifically you can actually see we first decide whether or not it is online or not. For the sake of brevity, I'm just going to go through the online process because you already know how the offline process works from the previous report, but this report was specifically focused on the new 2B process on the online website. So specifically, you can see we check if they're going to pay by credit card online or they're going to pay when they get to the office. Now, I get to the restaurant, sorry. Now, here we mark the order as payment pending, and then later on this becomes a normal cash transition once the food is cooked and the client has arrived, or the restaurant person who ordered the food, the customer has arrived. From here, we go and add the order to the database. Now, the back end, you'll see later in the client architectural construct, you'll see that we'll have something called database in the back end, but I'll get to that later. Specifically, we'll then go through and say, after the order is received, it's sent to the kitchen. Now, the cool thing with this new application is the kitchen's going to have something like this, a small iPad or phone, and from here they can see the order pop up. And later on you'll be able to see in the user interfaces of potentially what it could look like and what they could be dealing with. So yeah, as well as drivers will have the applications as well, but I'll get to that later. So moving on to the next part, as it gets added to the database, the cook then finishes the food, and then from there it simply checks whether or not it needs delivery, and then from there it gets sent to the delivery side, which will be to the delivery application, and then from there he or she will then deliver the order, and then that will then update the database after the order is completed, etc., etc. So moving on from what it was for the impacts, I've written out a list of what's called organizational changes. So this is specifically just saying what the new things and what the new process is going to be brought in and how they're going to affect you. So just a quick overview. As I said before, you're obviously going to have a reduced amount of work. The wait staff, again, faster processing. The only thing I'd like to bring your attention to is that once you have a website, you're pretty much global now. The chances are someone from, say, Africa or something that's going to order your food is low, but there's a potential that you'll get more traffic because you're in a global aspect. So there is an element that if you do begin to get a lot of online orders, you may need to upgrade your servers to handle increased server load. So that will have a small financial impact because we are looking at cloud-based services, which is subscription-based, and it's very scalable, very easy. So that's not to worry about, but it is to be noted. Again, for brevity, I just want to point out that I have recommended that training is imperative with this system. There's going to be Q&As, so your staff can ask after the training period. Your staff can then ask questions about, what any queries or suggestions they may have, and then on a 6-month basis, this will continually happen. So maybe a yearly basis, there'll be a retraining period, and then also another question and answer session. So anyone who has further suggestions or further issues with the systems can then ask it. And because of the development method we're going to choose, which I'll get to that later, it's going to fit in right perfectly to make all these changes. Like, it won't be, and making any changes after development will be completely easy. or during development. So these new processes are added, it means there's going to be new business rules. So that's going to be a bit different to what you currently had. Now, again, focusing just on the previous story, delivery drivers need to keep their accounts safe. If they let their passwords out, they might as well lose their phone. No point of password locking, so that's protect you. And also, there is a bit of a, we'll do whatever we can with the systems in order to make sure all the processes are protected from error, except specifically it's up to the delivery driver to only select order in transit once they've received the items, and also order deliver once they've actually delivered it. So there's a bit of human intervention or human reliance in that sense. Finally, as I was saying before, the method of choice that we're thinking will work really, really well is Agile. Now the cool thing with Agile is that it's iterative. So you'll receive modules very quickly. It won't take you ages like the waterfall method before you get a piece of software. This will be fast and this will be great. And the cool thing is you can be involved in the development process without needing to code. You can see what the developer's doing as they're doing it and make suggestions. So this design may seem really awesome, but when it gets into practice, there may be some things that may not work. Agile is perfect for that, because then you can suggest, hey, instead of this X, can we have Y, etc., etc., and it's a really easy fit. And I was saying before, as we have the Q&A sessions after the system is implemented, we can then add further changes from there onwards, and then hopefully you'll ask me back for another consultancy, and then I can design a further improved system for you, if there's any changes you need to be made, and I'm sure these developers will be happy to jump on again.